Welcome to Michigan football at the voice of college football. I have my can't be held back co-host Dre. Please like and subscribe the video. We definitely appreciate it. Also like and subscribe. Share the video out on social media. We greatly appreciate it. Also, Mark's main channel, the voice of college football. Please be sure to like and subscribe. We definitely appreciate it. Also, subscribe to Mark's uh, Patreon, where you can talk not only college football, but also pro football 24/7, 365. Dre, the floor is yours.
DOJ yet. I know he'll be here shortly. He better show up shortly. He was talking a lot of crap. And let me tell you something. I'm so glad I was wrong. And more importantly, what I'm so glad I was wrong about is JJ McCarthy. Today, Desmond, we text earlier. He got off to a rough start. Today, this game in particular, he looked like a five-star kid. Now that's it. Poised, made time to throw at the time to throw, great decision after great decision, beating them with his arm, with his legs, with his decision making. That is a five-star performance by your starting quarterback, where you're not at 100%. The way that you like to play, it's not as optimum level because your horse is hurt. And Blake Corum, you took your cat to him. He tried to give it a go. We all knew he would. And it was evident after the first drive he didn't have it. And for a while, it took this offense a minute to find its way. And JJ, where all things were, against him, he got it going. And he got better and better throughout the game. And I'm so proud of this team. I'm so proud of him. That's Desmond, and I don't think this is being a prisoner of the moment. I really don't. That is a career defining moment, at least in college, for a starting quarterback. On the road, hostile environment, everything on the line. Your offense is not healthy as it normally is. And for the first time, probably in your whole tenure as a quarterback there, the game is pretty much entirely on your shoulders. Pretty much until you beat them enough down the field where Ohio State and Jim Knowles had to make an adjustment, which allowed Donovan Edwards and that offensive line to start to pop a few more runs late in that game because they had to start to loosen up that box that they were playing, right? So man, you just gotta tip your hat to JJ and his team. The defense was spectacular today. Um, them and Jesse Mitchell had a great game plan. They made really one mistake, and that was the first time they brought a blitz with the safety, and C.J. Stroud recognized it and took a shot deep and beat it with Marvin Harrison Jr. But other than that, they did a fantastic job of keeping everything in front of them, not letting themselves get beat, being take advantage of opportunities, and it was a complete game, a well coached game, and a well executed game. And to me, a more impressive performance than what they had last year. To win the way they won today, in the environment that they won, it's the most impressive victory of college football by anybody. When Georgia beat Tennessee, mind you, they were at home. Michigan did this on the road. This is not enough positive things I can say about today. Not really nothing negative. I mean, the play calling finally opened up. You saw them taking shots down the field, and lo and behold, it actually works. And it's incredible. It really is. And I will also say this, and if you guys didn't hear it from me when I first started, I'll say it again. I'm so happy to be wrong. I didn't know that. I didn't know for sure if JJ can do this. Could he win a game in which Michigan didn't have their fastball being Blake Corum, and they're running game to start the game, and they weathered the storm. I wasn't in favor of Harbaugh, deferring to the second half because I felt like Michigan's offense was best suited to be more front runners, and I thought if they got behind, that played more to Ohio State's hands than Michigan hands. But it ended up being the right call. Michigan was able to keep Ohio State close before their offense got rolling. Goes back to the defense and their ability to get, a couple timely 3 and outs when Ohio State had them, on their heels. This is a spectacular job on all fronts. There's your guy, your boy Cornelius Johnson, who you've been begging to see to make plays, had a monster game. It just everything that you needed today, it happened. It was beautiful. It was physical. It was Michigan. Did they win, Des? But they proved without a doubt that they're the better football team. It wasn't like a couple plays here and there. No, they thoroughly, especially in the second half. Let's just say, call it what it was. They dominated Ohio State once again, and it's just not enough I can say, man. I'm so happy to be wrong, and you know, when you win a game like you win today, what I can finally say, Des, if this is who JJ McCarthy has started to become, if this is like that launching point in his career, then everything's on the table this year. You can win a
Correct.
national title. If that's going to be JJ McCarthy you're going to get every game in terms of decision making, being able to hit those passes down the field, knowing when and when not. Okay. Thank you. This has some Ohio State family walk in on me. But being timely with when to run a football, when not to run a football, you can win a national title this year. So, guys, saddle up because we're in for a pretty good ride, I believe. I really do. Thank you for letting me have the floor. I'll turn it over to you.
You know what? You are number one. You are my guy, and I want to make sure all of our listeners and our viewers know that you are my guy. So I'm always going to give it up to a Michigan fan, especially today. Here's a couple things that I will say. Is number one, if you follow me on Twitter at Algo Podcast, what you will see is I myself am an Alabama fan, and obviously, Alabama has lost to Tennessee this year, and then they lost to I don't even know who else. Anyway, at the end of the day, I've seen Tennessee fans just gloating nonstop at Alabama's expense. And my response to that has always been, gloat on. You deserve that because guess what? You won the game. There's nothing we can say. Yeah, if you want to talk about the history of it, great. Okay, cool. The history is, Nick Saban is beat Tennessee basically every year. But guess what? You won it this year. And what I will say to Michigan fans is gloat on. You deserve this because guess what? Your team without a doubt, your best player injured. And basically after let's call it 5 plays, was out of the game. You didn't see Blake Corum again after basically 5 carries. I'm not sure we saw Mike Morris after the first drive. I'm not sure we saw him after that. And to be able to not only, with and let's call it what it is. Blake Corum's your best offensive player. Mike Morris, we could have an argument, but Mike Morris is your best defensive player. We can have an argument about it, but let's say for this sake of discussion that yes, Mike Morris was the best defensive player that you have. The thing is to be able, I just can't express how impressed I am with this game. The defense again and again stood on its head. Was essentially if you've ever played hockey, like just a goalie who is standing on his head and we're just going to make stops. That's all we're going to do, just again and again. And sometimes it's circumstance of a bad throw. Sometimes it is we've put pressure on the quarterback to make him have a bad throw. But dude, it is incredible, and I am in I'm at one of my best friends, his homes right now, but I can't be in the general vicinity, the area, because it's just too loud. In a good way, So they are all Michigan fans. So, but no, listen, man, like to not be 100% and come out and beat your rival like this, impressive. Just again and again. I did have concerns early on in this game. JJ did not look dialed in. He did not look focused. He looked rattled, to be quite frank. And then he got to a point where it just he was absolutely dialed in, and then started to just. I mean, it was throw after throw. We actually had so there's a lot of parents here, and then with our kids and all that good stuff. But you know, a lot of parents here. So we were actually playing some flag football like during the halftime. So we were kind of messing around and all that good stuff. But nonetheless, we came back in, and it was just like as soon as we walked in, it was like boom, we had a 31-20, and that was just where we looked at it like, yo, I think this might be it, man. This might be it. So it's impressive. I'm not sure you can look at any one of the top 4 teams and say that they have a better win than what Michigan had today. It was incredible. It was incredible.
It's the most. It's as I said earlier. It's the most dominant, not dominant, most impressive win of any team in college football this year, with everything on the line. Even if you consider the context of who was missing, I mean, this wasn't just our best versus your best, and let's roll the ball out there and go at it. Now, look, we both had injuries. Ohio State didn't have Smith, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. But to be quite honest, they really haven't had them all year. So, I mean, the essence of that team was mostly there. They didn't have Trevion Henderson, but, you know, the essence of the team is not running the football, it's passing the football, right? So, you know, they were a lot more, I think, of themselves than we were, I would say. And, you know, to come out there and to lose Blake when we lost him, you know, we was at the game last week, right before this game. They threw him out there, try to see if he can give it a go, and it was clear, especially after that one, the first time he had to try to cut, he immediately felt something, you know.
It didn't look good. It did not look good.
You know, and it's just one of those things where whatever he's dealing with, it's just not. It is obviously going to take more than a week before it healed, right? And it was just fantastic. You know, it was fantastic seeing this team being able to, you know, take that blow of, you know, seeing your guy not being able to go. And, you know, Ohio State, quite frankly, punching you in the mouth, and you was able to, and the offense really wasn't responding very well at first, right? They did spiral. JJ started off not very good. He showed typical signs that he had all year, which was at times he can oversell the football and be inaccurate at times. And the minute what changed, and I text this to you, Des, when he was able to get that ball off a tremendous throw to Cornelius Johnson, who caught it and made 2 guys miss for a touchdown. I text you, I'm like, maybe that's the confidence that he needed. And after that play, it was a new JJ McCarthy. It absolutely was. And with his decision making and execution, poise, mixed with some really nifty play calling by Michigan. Make no mistake, you know, case in point, that trick halfback pass play, I mean, that was tremendous. You know, they brought up everything out their playbook to try to get this win today, and it worked. And it was just a total team, coaching staff effort. And that's not to mention, you know, Mike Morris really wasn't a factor today on defense. And they were not able to get a ton of pressure on C.J. Stroud, especially early. But the defensive line did a really good job staying in their lanes. And you really got to tip your hat to the defensive backs. They made one mistake today. And really, it was based on the play call. Sending the safety on the blitz, which allowed Marvin Harrison Jr. to get one-on-one with Green on the outside. Other than that, everything Ohio State got was earned. And it wasn't a lot. So it's just, man, you can't say enough about what they did today. You know, the tackling was fantastic. You know, earlier on, Ohio State tried to spread the Michigan defense out. You know, a lot of passes to the outside, get their athletes in space, and it was semi-effective. But as Jesse Minter has done such a tremendous job this year, he made an adjustment with his defense, and more than anything, what they did was they started to play a little bit more press coverage, and also they start tackling. Their tackling was sound today as well. So yeah, like I said, outside of really one mistake on defense, they were tremendous. They really were. And it was so telling from a locker. Des, we brought this up. One of the biggest losses, not only about Aiden Hutchinson, not only was his play on the field, but also his leadership. And it's obvious that Mike Sandersfield and Mike Morris really took up that mantle of being the leaders of this football team, especially on defense. And you hear about, the report of what Mike Sandersfield said on the sideline about, you want to win a national natty, we got to get it done right here. You do it right here. And for him, he actually gave up a pass to Ibaka. I can't remember how to say his name. Number 2 for Ohio State.
Ibuke.
But
yeah,
Ibuke. But the way he responded, man, and to me, made it's probably an underrated play. I won't say it's the play of the game because Donovan Edwards runs probably will be up there, but one of the clutchest play of the games by far was the way he was able to make the ground on Stover, the tight of Ohio State, who had the ball in his hands. It was a well-executed play by Ohio State. They got the matchup they wanted. Stroud threw a good ball. It was right in Stover's hands. He caught it, and Sanders still times it beautifully and knocks it out of his hand, which saved the touchdown. I mean, it just everything that you needed to pull off this type of game happened. And it's interesting, man. I would. You don't really see like any Ohio State people. They were definitely around on Wednesday.
They definitely were.
They definitely were. And they're nowhere to be seen right now.
I'm an Alabama fan, and yeah, we are absolutely out of it. So yes, I'm out of it. But absolutely, there were plenty of Ohio State fans that were here in our group chat that were talking a lot of jib jab. And listen, here's what I'm going to say is I don't care who you root for. There is zero that you can take away from this Michigan win to look at it and give any kind of excuse at all. Listen, this team, without their best offensive player, arguably their best defensive player, went into the half, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think they went into the half up 4 against the second best.
They were down 20-17. No, Des, they were down 20-17 at halftime.
My apologies. So down 3 at halftime to what all of the voters say is the second best team in the country, and then came out in the second half and absolutely skull dragged that team. Like, give me the team that has a better win than that and looks that impressive.
No,
like
that was total domination.
There's no team you could look at. Even Tennessee, with them beating Alabama, even that win, it was like, number one, that win was at home, and you won by 3 with the clock running out. Whereas this game is Michigan winning on the road against Ohio State, and it ain't even close. And
they were desperate.
Like Teddy Rich says, excuses, weather. We skull dragged them. There's no excuse for the weather. It was 50-something degrees out there today, and Michigan went out and dominated. It was impressive, man. You could make a valid argument that Michigan should be ranked the number 1 team in the country.
Absolutely. If you want to do that,
easily
the way that Georgia was able to jump. Now, granted, it was a direct matchup. I think Georgia was 3 or 2, and Tennessee was 1. And so, yeah, they were able to jump Tennessee directly, but and Georgia didn't lose today. So I would understand they don't rank Michigan 1, but if you want to go about who has the most impressive victory, it's Michigan, but without a doubt.
Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt you, my brother. I love you. Gregory Stewart, has Michigan played someone yet? The answer is yes. They played the number 2 team in the country. That's who they played. And guess what? They dominated that team.
Gregory.
I really don't want to hear that in this chat today. Born on third. It's clear Gregory's a troll. But what I will say is, someone who is impartial, this is the absolute BS narrative. They absolutely have played someone. They played who the committee thinks is the second best team in the country at their place and dominated them. So, yes, they have played somebody, and guess what? They kicked their butt. Sorry, brother. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. And the thing is, I will say this. two of Michigan's most impressive performances as a team have been against their best opponents, Penn State and Ohio State. Their best overall team performances has been against their more formidable foes. So, it says one thing that we were worried about how this team could translate, beating up on cupcakes and versus the big boys, and clearly, it's not a problem for them. They are without a doubt one of the top two teams in the country, and they proved that today.
Let me jump in real quick, and then I'll kick it back to you. First off, Christopher's Xbox World, thank you so much for the super chat. Says Jim Harbaugh is Ryan Day's daddy. Also for goodness gracious, the gentleman Gregory Stewart. It sounds like he was just being sarcastic. So
I think he was. I think he was too. I think he may be a Michigan fan actually. He was trying to be sarcastic about Mary. So we apologize.
So we apologize, Greg. Yes, send love. All right, go ahead, Dre. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's just one of those things where, I mean, look, in their biggest games of the year, they look the most impressive. You hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, and so it's just one of those things where, man, it's just there's nothing else. They're undefeated. There's nothing else you can ask for them,
bro.
And it's incredible. It's incredible.
So impressive. Like I want to,
in a way,
because I am someone who's impartial. Go ahead.
And they did it in a way today that was different, at least initially. Now, look, Donovan Edwards, that last drive to go up 31-20, that was more of Michigan throughout the year. The running game got going. I thought what the offensive staff was a really good change. It was they had JJ run the football a little bit more, which I thought was really important because they allowed the Ohio State defense not to be able to go full bat out of hell, full speed towards the running back, and they had to respect the legs of JJ McCarthy. And it was a sound, deliberate, long, drawn-out drive that ended in a touchdown. They started, I think, with maybe 4 minutes left in the third quarter, ended up going into the fourth quarter before they scored to go up 31-20. So, I mean, that was more of the Michigan balanced and kind of death by 1,000 cuts offense throughout the year. But other than that, they won this football game differently. They won it on the shoulders of their quarterback and receivers making plays. Cornelius Johnson making plays. Ronnie Bell making plays. Loveland making plays, man. Trick plays such as the halfback.
And let it be known.
So many ways today. It's incredible.
We talked about that on Wednesday of JJ. Can he be that guy to put it on his shoulders and get it done? Like we've talked about that, like on this channel.
And he did it, man.
3-4 days ago. And early on, it was shaky. I'll be honest. Like we were texting about it, and I'm like, man, he does not look.
If you check Twitter during that time, everyone saw that JJ was shaky, and for a while, it looked like the fear in the scenario that we were painting that can happen was transpiring on the field, which was this is a situation that JJ was in this offense is just not built and prepared for, and for them to essentially find it during the game. Make no mistake, they didn't come into the game clicking. They had to find it during the game. They had to make plays, and that they grew more and more confident in the biggest game of their lives. This was the biggest game of JJ McCarthy's life, and he answered the bell. And he's only a sophomore, and it's like, man, today you saw it. Remember what I said about him? You see the raw tools, but you just never quite could see it coming all together. And you saw it today. You saw it. I mean, Joe Clapp made a great point. He's like, what's more impressive about anything that he was doing was his decision making. Every decision he made was the right decision. It seemed like down the stretch of that football game. It didn't matter if they were down, if they were up, and he had Ohio State and Jim knows at loss of options. You really didn't know what to do. Because for the first time, really, maybe since, I mean, honestly, but I can't even use Devin Gardner or Denard Robinson as examples because those weren't really good Michigan football teams. I mean, for the really good Michigan football teams, for them to have a legitimate threat at quarterback. Today, you saw the difference between Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. Today, you saw a more dynamic offense. That's what should look like. That's it. And it couldn't have came at a more important time.
Real quick. So CJ Mike 1024 says, I'm at work in the fire station. All my buddies that are OSU fans are quiet, talking much noise all week. Now it's crickets. Also, Lewis Papp says, I'm saying here now Michigan will win the national championship
Lewis, you can say that today.
2022.
You can say that today. Des
Yeah,
can. He can say.
why
We can say that
not?
today.
Why
Everything's on the
not?
table. Everything's on the table. Especially
Listen,
if that is the defensive effort you're going to get, and that is the JJ McCarthy you're going to get. Maybe not in terms of, don't get too caught up in the stats, right? The rushing touchdowns or passing touchdowns, but more importantly, the decision making, and when he has to make a play, he's able to do it. If that's who you're going to get, if this is the start, all bets are off. And here's another great thing. Is that, look, we got to take care of business next week in the Big Ten title game. Looks like it's going to be Purdue. Take care of business there. But here's the most important thing, guys. You will have time for guys to get a little bit more healthy before the playoffs start. What is it, a 2-week layover? Or a week and a half?
It might be more than that. I think it might be closer to 4 weeks.
Right. Well, and and that's more time for Donovan Edwards to get healthy. It's more time for Blake Corum to get healthy. I mean, there was a point in time where, if you thought Michigan wasn't going to win a football game, that some of us may have thought that was the last time Blake Corum may have taken a handoff in Michigan, right? That may not be the case now. And Michigan will have a chance, assuming, which they should, win the Big Ten title next week, to go into the playoffs mostly healthy. More time for Mike Morris to kind of heal up, So it's huge, man. Getting this done was absolutely huge. And I just, and for Donovan to do what he did with one hand, he had one hand. I'm watching, and I was telling, as I tell people, I'm married to an Ohio State family, so I'm watching it with, with the fam here, here for the Thanksgiving weekend. And I made a note that what worried me about Donovan Edwards carrying the football was that he couldn't really hold it with two hands. And I was worried about him exposing it. And I was worried about Ohio State taking swipes at it. And I think they may have tried a couple times, but he did a very good job, not only just running the football, but protecting the football. So man, you just, I'm running out of nice things to say, but Mason Brown once again dominate him and Monty Smith dominating the inside. Ohio State really couldn't get any running game going the inside. 19 Trevion, he came out of nowhere, had one carry for Ohio State coming into this game. He obviously was not on our strategy board, but he made an impact and we made an adjustment. Right. And all things considered, even though he had a touchdown, Marvin Harrison Jr. did not dominate today's football game. They overall did a pretty good job of containing him. And Des, you said that was key, and they did it.
Number one, I thought that was a gross neglect by Ryan Day. And also what I will say too is we are on the Michigan channel. So set that aside. What I want to make sure that we do is give not only Jim Harbaugh, but also those leaders on that Michigan football team, because this is a big deal. Like, I want to make sure that here on the Michigan channel, Michigan football, the voice of college football, you are an underdog. You are, I think, an 8-point, maybe 9-point underdog in this game on the road. And without Blake Corum, without Mike Morris, and other guys banged up, you went out and dominated the second best team in the country per the college football playoffs rankings. I don't know what the final is. I think it's 45-23, something in that range.
Des, I want you to keep going. Des, I want you to keep going. Let's just call it what it is. Ohio State was one of the national championship preseason favorites coming into this season. Yeah, not just to win the Big Ten, they were one of the national championship favorites coming into the season, along with Georgia and Alabama and the rest of the big boys. So, and they were undefeated coming to this game. So they were.
I want to make sure that we are. I want to make sure we're giving them enough credit. Like we're talking about different things, and that's all great because everything factors into the game. But if you are a Michigan fan today, right now, you should be excited that you did not have your fastball and you dominated the second best team in the country. Like I just want to make sure that is encapsulated in what we talk about because it's important. You know what I mean? Like because if we don't use the college football playoff rankings as far as how we talk about teams, then what the heck are they for? So for me, I want to make sure that we are consistently going back to that because I mean, Dre, we had a conversation on Wednesday, and you were very concerned. Like, I'm not quite sure that our team can go on the road with just all of the circumstances and win. And your team went out and not only won, but they dominated that game. Like, you know what I mean? Like the last four
And they were
minutes of the game
justifiable reasons
were
too.
not even in question. The
Yeah.
last 4 minutes weren't in question. It was just
No.
like, yo, we're just out running the clock. Like this is, you know what I mean? Like, so I just want to make sure that number one, we're giving your team and everybody who's viewing us. We got 650 people on the line right now, but I want to make sure that we are giving Michigan the due credit that they are deserved because this is a huge win. This is a monumental
More
win,
important than
and
last
I
year.
want to make sure we do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
more important than last year. Because last year was an exercising of the demons. It was getting over the mountaintop, but this was okay. Was last year a fluke? Ohio State's ticked off. They're painting their helmets, maize and blue with stripes on them, right? Like they had this game circled all year, right? Because they were not going to allow Michigan to come out and do that to them again. They brought in Jim Knowles, a well-respected defensive coordinator. They went all in that we have got to get it right this year. We cannot lose again to that team up north, as they call us. And by all means, they gave their best effort today, too. They gave their best effort in Michigan with everything going against them, came into their house with Ohio State playing with a sense of desperation. You know how you could tell Ohio State was desperate? About midway through that third quarter, and I think Joe Klatt pointed out, or Gus Johnson, one of them did, you could see Ohio State starting to get tight. The pressure started to creep up on them because they understood the importance of winning this football game, right? This is everything. And look, was Patrick our guest on Wednesday? Is it Pat? Our guest on Wednesday, I think it's his name. Guys, forgive me if I got his name incorrect. Well, our Ohio State guest last week brought it up and made a great point that for Ohio State fans, this is incredibly important. It didn't matter that they have won 18 out of the last 20 or whatever it was, because of the historical context of going through bad years like they did under Cooper, and so there was a sense of desperation everywhere for Ohio State to get this done. And they gave Michigan their best shot, and they were dominated at home. That speaks volumes. And Des, we talked about this as well before the season. You remember we said this was a grand opportunity. This is one of those swing seasons where it's one thing to have a magical year and everything falls together and you're able to beat your rival and get to the playoffs. It's another where if you do it 2 years in a row and you do it at their house, now you're talking about a potential changing of the guard, if you will. A legitimate swing in this rivalry. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but when you do something like this, that's the momentum and that's the type of energy change that typically ensues afterwards. And that's why it's big on all fronts. I could imagine what an Ohio State channel looks like right now.
I was just thinking that. I'm like,
technically,
I wonder what they are feeling right now. Oh man, it's got to be tough.
I'm sure they're upset.
It's got to be tough.
I'm sure they're upset. We've been there.
But honestly, like I'm not sure that if you're on the Ohio State channel and you are being honest about this game, I'm not sure you can look at it and just say, "Oh, we missed these three plays." Like you got beat, and that's football. Like that's what it is. But I'm not sure you can look at for example, I'm a Michigan or Alabama fan, and so I obviously was watching football when the kick six happened. And if I, as an Alabama fan, I look at it and I say, had that kick just went out, let's say Alabama missed a kick, but it went out of the back of the end zone, I would say we still would have beaten Auburn. I may be wrong, but whatever. That's all up to conjecture. But if you're Ohio State, you can't say the same thing about this game, right? Because
No.
what play do you point to say, oh well, had that play gone differently, we would have won? Like you in the second half, you legitimately got ran off the field, like you did. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, I want to keep backtracking to the fact that you went into the second team who was the team ranked second in the college football playoff. You went to their house and in a rivalry game where we all know crazy things happen in rivalry games. We all know that. You went there and dominated that team. Dominated that team. Like that, I want to make sure, because I do understand there is a certain just a certain reputation that a Michigan fan gets, and that you're irrational and things like that. I want to make sure that we are clear about that. Like, no. This Michigan team went there, played in what the one or two best home field advantages in the conference, right? We could probably argue maybe Iowa, and then I would say from there, Ohio State. Like, as far as the toughest places to go and play, and you dominated that team. Also, I want to say we've got about 600 people on the line right now. Please give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. It would be a big help to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. Shadyville03 says we did it. And Shadyville is absolutely right. Also, Dan Rutherford says, I hated Don Brown's all or nothing defense until today. OSU's Knowles plays that same style. Feast or famine, Michigan feasted. Way to go, Blue. Listen, man, there is no fire extinguisher on this. This flame of winning this game today should just be fed. Give it more gas, give it more paper. Like this should be just flame. Don't talk to anyone who makes you feel like this Michigan win should be understated. Don't talk to that person. Don't talk to them.
And it was obvious what Jim Knowles, game plan was for Ohio State. It was to make JJ beat them. And for a while, for a couple of drives, it seemed like that was the right strategy. We talked about it on Wednesday's show, Des. We said if we were Jim Knowles, you would absolutely load the box against Michigan, and prove that they can win another way. And Michigan was able to answer the call. Michigan was able to prove that they do have a counterpunch, at least for today. They do have a curveball. They do have something that they can hit you with outside of just their fastball in their go-to move. And when that's the case, you saw earlier on when Michigan started to kill them with plays down the field of Cornelius Johnson, that you're in zero coverage and you're on 1-on-1 because you're loading the box. And it was clear. We heard from our Ohio State guest last week, and I'm actually talking to like I said, some of my family who are Ohio State fans, that the DBs were the weakest position group for Ohio State, and Michigan was able to take advantage of that today. They really were. And once that happened, Jim Knowles had to eventually adjust. And once he started to soften up that box that he had down there to stop the running game, that's when you saw Donovan Edwards start to gas him a little bit. And the offensive line having, there was one play, I think it was a 31, 32, where like some of the offensive linemen didn't even know who to block because no one was in front of them because Ohio State started to spread out a little bit. So it basically, because that, and that's why, Des, that we were harping on the importance of having balance, because when you do that and you're already a really good football team, you put a defense in a no-win scenario. You're at their they're at your mercy, because even if they try to take away what you do best, you don't have to be just as good at the other thing. We will never say your passing game has to be just as good as your running game. We were never saying that. What we were saying is that you should at least be competent with your passing game just to keep the defense honest. And you got to tip your cap to his coaching staff and the players because either they were unwilling or were unable to really show that all throughout the season. No, I don't buy into this whole where they saved it for this game. Maybe a couple trick plays here and there. I just for somehow, some way, they were able to put it all together during this game. And that goes to a tremendous amount of preparation leading up to this game, probably throughout the year, but definitely during this past week of practice.
Dre, if there's one thing that you know about me, and I hope I know that this is true, is I am willing to give credit where it is due.
Yep.
And that oddly rhymed, but I'm still going to rewind and take a couple steps back and say that number one, here's the number one thing to know about this game today. Blake Corum was basically out. He did get, I think,
No, he didn't
one or
play.
two carries.
He was not. He didn't play.
But
no factor.
Let's call it what it is. Blake Corum was out. So your Heisman Trophy candidate was out of the game, was a non-factor in this game. Now, let's take a pause here and say, because we've heard about Caleb Williams, terrific quarterback for USC. What would USC be if their Heisman Trophy candidate was out of the game, right? So let's pause with that, right? What is USC going to be without their Heisman Trophy candidate? And I think Texas won either earlier today or yesterday with their Heisman Trophy candidate, Bijan Robinson. I would also like to say, C.J. Stroud. What would Ohio State have been today without C.J. Stroud? And I saved those four teams, and let's just, whatever. We'll just group those teams together. What would all of those teams be without their Heisman Trophy candidate? And most people would say they're not the same. And I would agree with that. But Dre, your team, and I want to give love to all of the 500 some odd people who are on the channel right now. Your team was without their Heisman Trophy candidate, and I can make an argument that had Blake Corum played today, he would have had his Heisman moment today in the rivalry game, in the game that mattered the most.
Maybe the runs that
you could make an argument that he could have had it. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
If that was Blake Corum doing those runs,
your team did it without that guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to make sure that everybody on this channel like understands that. Like, your team went into the most difficult game that they had all season without not only their Heisman Trophy candidate, but also Mike Morris, who is one of their best defensive players too, and dominated the game. Like, that is wild. Like, that's wild to me. You know what I mean? Like, and I want to make sure this Michigan team gets that credit because they deserve it. You know what I mean? Like, they have been building towards this game, and in the game that they needed to show up the most, everybody did. Everybody did.
Yeah, I mean, no, you can't, allow, put more praises upon this team and for what they did today. This is an all timer. It really is. As for a Michigan fan, there's just not, and I want to address this. Dre, nothing negative to say in this game. Absolutely not. Where's that bowl of crow? I will gladly eat crow today. I have nothing negative to say at all, because the team went out and proved and they dominated it. Guys, if you haven't gotten to know me, then this is a nutshell of who I am. Like, I try to call things as I see it. Some of you may view it as slightly pessimistic. Maybe I'm naturally more like that. But like when it comes to my team, if I've seen them do something before, then I have more confidence they can repeat it. If I haven't seen something, then I don't typically take blind hope that they can do it. That's just how I look at things. And this is one of those days where anything you can ask of your football team, they did. And so no, man, I am extremely ecstatic. I'm proud. It's a good day to be a Michigan Wolverine. It really is.
Dude, you can't beat it. I mean, and here's the part also that you got to take into account is this game is going to be one of the most watched games in college football all year. Like, this is going to probably be number one, to be quite frank. This is probably going to be number one. And in the biggest moment that you have, you came out and played well, right? Like, it's just it's impressive, man. At the end of the day, because I know for myself and I know for you, Dre, we've both been very critical of Jim Harbaugh, and to have the game of your season, not I'm not going to say the game of your life, but the game of your season, for you to come out and I would say out coach Ryan Day, that says a lot. It says a whole lot. Also for Nick, says JJ McCarthy coming out party, baby. He torched the Bucknuts.
He did.
But it just was
You
incredible
know
to
what's more
have that
telling about JJ?
in this
Des?
moment. Go
What
ahead.
was so telling about JJ is that, man, he is a cool operator, man. Not cool, smooth operator, as I want to say. And you watch him on the sideline the course of the game, and that kid always tends to have a smile on his face. He's always smiling. And he has this aura about him that exudes confidence. And when you have a guy like that, especially that's your quarterback, and he has the raw ability that JJ has, it really opens up everything for you. Um, and man, for him to do this at this point in his career, he's not some red shirt fifth year senior with a ton of experience. Playing a road game, he's never had this. Playing at the Horseshoe as a starter. This is his first time doing it, being in this situation, and he, and not to start off great and to bounce back says a lot about his character. It really does. Um, and you see the way that his teammates rallied around him. Every time he made a play, they were right there. Giving him dap. Having his back. This also popped into my mind. Not only was Michigan a better team in terms of execution, also discipline. I mean, how many costly penalties did Ohio State have today? I mean, that unnecessary roughness was stupid. What was by who was that? Number 88 for Ohio State? I can't remember. I mean, dude, what are you doing? You can't run to somebody on the sideline and then stand up face to face and throw your helmet into them. Those are the type of things where not only Michigan was the better team physically, but they were the stronger team mentally. They totally outclassed Ohio State today. Totally. And I can't speak for Ohio State, but I would assume this is one of those back-to-back years where you got to do some soul searching. And I know and the reason I can say that is because as a Michigan fan, we've been there many a year where we had to do soul searching and figure out where in the world are we going with our program. We are not where we want to be. And myself and a lot of Michigan fans included, a lot of that criticism fell on the feet of Jim Harbaugh. A lot of us a couple years ago wanted him gone. Even though they were winning the easy cupcake games, they were critically failing in these type of games. And he made the right decisions in terms of shaking up his staff, maybe slightly changing his philosophy a little bit at times. And he was able to really right this ship, man. And it seems to have taken this program to newer heights than it has been in a very, 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 very long time. And for that, he looks like the Jim Harbaugh that arrived on that plane. What was it, December
Yeah,
2018?
good lord.
When they
Yeah, I think so.
felt like Jesus arrived in the Detroit Metro Airport, whatever it was, like that was the aura and the feeling that he instilled in this program and juice. And this is how it should feel. No, let's be honest. I'm not expecting to beat Ohio State every year. I mean, would that be great? Absolutely. Has it been like that for Ohio State to us? It has been, and it's definitely possible. But we'll take this a year by year basis. But it really feels like he has finally solidified himself as the best head coach in the Big Ten. I am finally ready to say that Jim Harbaugh, as of now, I'll take him as the number one coach in the Big Ten. And I think he has catapulted himself back into a top 5 coach in the game. He has done that. He has earned that right. Des, I think they're 24-2 the last 2 seasons. And assuming they
It
take care of
might
their
be
business next
25 and
week,
2 now.
assuming they take care of their business next week, what you're going to say is the last 2 years, Michigan is going to be 25-2. They have 2 conference championships and at least 2 playoff appearances, barring whatever happens. You know, he deserves a lot of credit. And I didn't think I'll ever say that again. I didn't think Jim Harbaugh would ever re-earn that respect from me. But the proof is in the pudding, as someone said in the comments. It really is. And I have no problem giving credit where credit is due. And this Michigan program has now shown that they are, as of now, this is subject to change. It's a fluid situation over the years. They are now a big boy. They are now in that top 5, top 6 echelon of programs across the country. And, they deserve to be there. They deserve to be there.
And I think you bring up a very good topic and a very good point because, yes, I do agree that, at the end of the day, until you win those big games consistently, you don't get your name brought up into winning those games consistently. It's just one of those things. Until you do it, they don't bring your name up. And for Jim Harbaugh, like he definitely needs he deserves a lot of credit because early on the offense was not clicking. It was not working, and whatever his just approach was, like, it worked. Like whatever it was, where there was just, hey, listen, let's just keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep working with what we game plan for. Like, don't panic. Keep doing our thing. Like, it's fine. Like, keep going. And to win that game, it's just impressive. Like I said, I don't think there's another win that is better than the one that Michigan has today. So I get not having Michigan number one, but I
They
would
have a legitimate gripe.
imagine that Ohio State's gonna have some problems getting your butt kicked by the number 3, a team ranked lower than you, and you were at home. Like, I'd
Yeah.
imagine you're gonna have some problems, but nonetheless, for Michigan, I want to focus on them to just have guys continuously step up. Like Blake Corum, Heisman Trophy candidate, is out. Donovan Edwards has got to step in. CJ Stokes has got to step in. And I think number 20, I can't remember what his name was, but
Mullins.
he even got a carry or two. Yes, he even got a couple carries. It was impressive. Also, too, for the 494 people on the line, please give us a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. But, yeah, it just – Michigan will be at absolute worst case number 2, potentially number 1. I'm not quite sure because I think even when Georgia beat Tennessee, I think Georgia was at home, if I'm not mistaken. So Michigan has an argument to be the number 1 team in the country.
Oh, they absolutely have a gripe. They absolutely have a gripe to be number 1. Talking about being 12-0 and having the most impressive victory throughout college football this particular year. They absolutely have a gripe. And, at the end of the day, that will play itself out. I feel pretty good about it. This is the Michigan team that we're going to get, and they're not even that healthy right now. But this is a Michigan team that we're going to get, going forward. You feel pretty good versus anybody. You really do. And I can't, man. I could talk all day about this, but this is one of those games where you break it down, Des, and you want to let it simmer. You want to let people really bask in it for a little bit, and I definitely plan to. We're off to the Indy again, and there were times that we used to joke. There was times that me and you used to joke like we'll never see Indy. We used to make jokes that at least myself, that the only time a Michigan football player sees Indy is doing NFL combine. Literally. But man, have things have changed over the last 2 years. And look, they still have to take care of their business. I don't know if you want to get Purdue or Illinois. I mean, Illinois showed last week that they can present some things that can give Michigan issues. So we'll break that down depending on who the opponent is. And they still have a long ways to go in terms of, I think, achieving the ultimate goal, which is winning a national title, because now that's legitimate for what's ahead of them. They are on their way to winning a national title. And I just man, it's incredible. It really is.
This
As
is
of now,
this is huge. Like, and I want to make sure, because like I said, and I'm, if I'm beating a dead horse, I apologize. But I want to make it very clear, because I am very hard on Jim Harbaugh, and I'm very hard on this team as well. And this is a huge win. This is a huge win, monumental win, because when you think about a matchup like this, a 2 versus 3, it doesn't happen all that often. But Michigan, you went on the road and did this. You went on the road and dominated. So yes, I get it. Like last year too, and I gave you credit last year for that win, because that was big. I don't care what snow, rain, hail happened. You dominated that Ohio State team. But this is even bigger than that, because of, number one, you were both undefeated, and number two, you are on the road playing an undefeated team who is number 2 ranked in the country. This is a big deal. This is a big win, and I want to make sure I give Jim Harbaugh all the credit and his team, getting his team prepared to win this game. Because like I said, I'm hard on him, so I want to make sure I give him credit
but
when he does.
ain't nobody playing the violin for Jim Harbaugh. He gets paid a lot of money, and he coaches at one of the most prestigious.
But we
No,
gotta give
I
him credit,
understand.
because
I'm just
when he
saying
plays
he
the Penn
coaches at one of
States
the
and
most prestigious
Iowas, I'm like,
universities in the
nah,
country.
yeah.
High expectations. So, and me and you, we try to see things right down the middle. We're not homers.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a Michigan fan. I am a Michigan fan, and I'm not a homer Michigan fan. I love the program, but I call things how it is. I would love to win a national championship every year, but I just know that's not the case. And I'm going to call it the best way I can. And at times, Jim Harbaugh has deserved the criticism he has gotten. Um, we're not the only ones that have talked about the offense and a lack of creativity at times. That is evident. That is who he is, but it is something that it looks ugly at times, and it's worth pointing it out. And there were times that you could see in the games that it does look like, wow, we got to win another way. And you did win a
Mm-hmm.
different way today.
And they did. Right.
So
And
it's
that's the
like,
craziest part. I'm like, hold on. So Michigan hasn't won any other games any other way than their normal way, and today they had to have it, and they just got it. Like, that's just it's mind blowing. I don't understand it, but it just kind of is what it is. Janet McCarthy, thank you so much for the super chat. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in and contributing to the show.
and I'll say this too, and this is not
Go
probably
ahead.
the right time to bring this up. I saw some people talking about Jim Harbaugh's contract and pay that man and everything like that. I would assume Ward Manuel. And here's one thing you gotta get rid of. I'm sure you guys are used to this. Comes to Jim Harbaugh, it's never a certainty with him, right? So especially when he has leverage. So prepare yourselves. There's probably another
Let's
offseason.
not get into that right now. Let's
I
not get
know.
into that right now.
You're right.
Maybe we'll talk about that on Wednesday.
That's a day. That's another
That's not
contract.
a today.
I mean,
That's
not a
not a
contract.
today conversation.
Another day for another time. I
Yeah,
saw it.
that's
We'll
not a
address that
today
later.
conversation. Yeah, no, we'll talk about that later.
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right.
But what I will say to everybody is thank you once again. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. For myself and Dre, I think we are getting ready to dive into the libations, which I hope y'all have done the same thing.
Absolutely.
Because your team has has had the win of the year so far. So you guys are you deserve it. You deserve it. You've been hanging out with us every week, and the year has basically culminated to this. And for Michigan, they deserve all the credit because they came out and kicked the butts of Ohio State, who was the home team and ranked number 2. So it's just it's incredible. Kudos to Michigan. Kudos to Jim Harbaugh. They deserve it. Those guys went out on the road, kicked butt, and an impressive win. There's nothing that you can say about the win today. It's
one of those
impressive.
days.
So
This one of those days you can just bask in it, guys. I know I am. I know you are. Everything's on the table. We're not done, and it's okay. It's okay to believe that we're not done, and you know, unlike last year, this isn't just now about just getting in. Now we're talking about taking a step forward and winning this damn thing, the whole thing, and it's possible. And tonight you can dream and you can believe, not just hope, but you can believe that we can do this thing. We can hoist that crystal clear ball at the end of the year that says that's sponsored by Dr. Pepper. we, we can do this thing, and it's incredible. It's probably one of those games, guys, that we talk about for a long time as Michigan fans, and it's well deserved on all fronts.
Michigan fans, you deserve it. That is it for us. We appreciate your tuning in. Peace.
Peace.